She's
just,
gonna think this is like insane.
Should we do the racism now? Because I feel like we
Oh, we
definitely
got a lot to
yeah.
say.
I like how we're like barely talking about the book.
Oh, we can do. Let's start with the book.
Okay. So hi, welcome
We're
to
back.
the racism
We're back.
episode. Every person who gets offended easily leave.
Yeah, leave because we'll probably. I mean,
We're gonna rag on you so hard.
I won't say names if it makes everybody feel better.
wait, can we use the code of, never mind.
Can we give code names?
Mainly people that say like white people can't talk about racism.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
I can. Great, strong opening.
And there's prejudice back to white people as well from everybody else. Like, hey,
Hands
go.
down.
Remember when we hated Italians and Irish people?
Love me.
We've hated everyone.
Germans.
Germans.
Remember when we hated Polish people?
Yeah.
That was pretty recent.
Literally,
Russians,
Columbus.
I mean, there's really not that many.
Columbus
Russians.
only
There
became
are.
popular because Italian people
Yeah.
were like prejudiced against, and the government was like, we gotta make people stop hating Italians. Let's give this
Yeah.
guy a name. Like, and it's just like people.
Wait, Columbus was Italian?
Huh?
Columbus was
He
Italian?
was Italian, and then he went to Portugal, and then he was like the Spain Ferdinand.
Oh,
They-
yeah.
Because he was an idiot.
Sorry, yeah.
I
I was like, wait, what?
Stupid
Sorry.
guy. Got into an argument with my dad about Columbus.
No, that's.
He was like, he just discovered it. He brought Europeans to America, and I was like, no, he was a jerk. He raped.
Yeah, so like
He literally was put in
he's
jail. He was put in jail
Yeah.
because he abused his.
Anyways,
Different.
so for the book, like we were talking about in the other episode, the overeager supporters, you see that a lot with Kurt. And then I love how the author highlighted this fact, is that everybody thinks their own story outweighs and is worse than the other person.
Yes.
Because much of the conflict between Blaine and Ifem is that
They
Blaine's
think
like,
they're-
I got it worse than you. She's
Yeah.
like, well, you
Because
have no
I grew up
idea.
in this place, and she's like, yeah, I grew up in a different place, and imagine suddenly being dropped in a place where everyone treats you differently.
And colorism is a form of racism, and that was running high in Nigeria when she was little. So, I mean, everybody's been through
I
it.
am so guilty of that. So many times where people will tell me things, and secretly I'll just think mine's worse, and that's horrible. And I've definitely gotten better at it. And I'll check myself and be like, shut up, you don't know their experience.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
it's sad that people constantly will be like, my life. It's almost like a competition of like whose life sucks more.
Yeah.
So who's
Yeah.
It kind
more
of is.
allowed to be a victim?
Yeah. Well, see, and I mean, and a lot of times I'm forced to acknowledge this. I'm cool with, because I totally get it. If I was darker skinned or not mixed, I would have probably more of a problem than I do. But the fact that I am kind of highlights the, oh, interracial relationships, huh? That's new. That's funky. Like,
Yeah.
it goes. There's so many different shades of it, and so some of it's
Uh-huh,
subtle.
shades.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, and it's just, it's so different for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's hard to acknowledge for a lot of people. I mean, I have my moments where I'm like, no one gets it. I don't understand.
Yes, like where you're like, I am alone and no one gets me.
Right.
And then
Especially-
you also have to be like, stop thinking of yourself as a victim.
Yeah, especially when a lot of your friends are, like,
They don't get it.
They don't get it, no.
I have had people who are in our friend group, my actual experience, they have marked on me with a brown marker and said, look, it doesn't even show up.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
You guys know really well.
no.
Anyway, and I laughed it off. And it's so sad that I have to laugh it off because I don't want to be confrontational. Because then people were like, oh, person of color, making everything a big deal.
Right, well, see, and then I've noticed that, I mean, when little kids are little, they have, like, we were talking about the nude undergarments in the last episode and everything, but when you color a person, you pick peach, you pick sand, or you pick nude. And they're all basically the same shade of very
Pink.
yeah.
And so those are your three options. And then for the people of color, you got the brown.
You got
The brown
the
is
color.
I
Or you
never
got the
grew
brown.
around people as a child. And I looked back and I was like, what the hell
I
are you doing, child?
remember hating when they made you All About Me. I remember like hating that there is one color and it barely, because it's just the straight brown color in the crayon box, and that does not fit everyone's skin tone. And I remember I had to draw it really light on, and I had to spend so much time if I wanted to even try it. And in the end, sometimes I'd just be like, who
Because
cares?
it's just easier because it doesn't, yeah.
And people will know who it is. I'm the only brown kid in this class. Who cares? Like, I'm not even gonna try. And it's so sad that you have to be like, huh?
My school's like way too poor for that. I went to Skyline. That place is poor, and I went to like everyone is like very Latino and like Hispanic, and yeah.
I went to Sanger, which I mean, it's kind of the rich kid school.
Right.
Because of the
Westwood
places,
too, yeah.
And I like, and predominantly, it's a sad fact, a lot of, in this community, they are predominantly, people who are successful and rich are white.
Yep.
And that's why the bulk of my school was really sheltered. I remember the guidance counselor telling us, like, hey, when you go to the middle school, other schools are not going to be as sheltered as you.
Oh.
And I was terrified.
In 5th grade, for our sex ed, we accidentally saw the guys' video. We were the least sheltered.
We didn't
school
have a
in all-
sex
in
ed.
fucking Stillwater.
We didn't have a sex ed in Sanger.
You didn't have a sex ed?
What?
We had the like general like, oh, women, your body's changing, but we didn't.
Oh, we
Like,
had
did you
that,
have the
yeah.
video, you know, when
The
The-
girl.
I vividly remember
Yeah.
when they were doing the hair talk. And
Yeah,
she's like,
I
know.
No,
I remember that.
I
No, I don't remember
We did
talking
way
about
more
like
than that.
sex.
Yeah.
We didn't.
And
we
they gave
just
us
had
little
it all
samples
at
of deodorant at Westwood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We had that at
they
Richmond,
gave
yeah.
us a pad. We didn't have enough money for
We didn't even get
deodorant.
that.
Well, see, and
We
then
didn't
at
get that.
Westwood, it was, I mean, it's gotten a little bit better now that we've gotten to the upper schooling, but Westwood, I could count on one hand the people who were not white, and then there was a couple Asian kids in there too.
Same.
Like
Like-
there's, I guess they're not white, but you know what I mean. Like there's the people of color on the African American, Hispanic side,
Uh-huh.
and there was there's out of the people of color, there were a lot more Asians than were anything
Yeah,
else.
I remember there were a lot more people who were like East Asian
Mhm.
in my school than we had one person who came in the 5th grade who was African American, and that is covering like half African, one person. And I remember we were sitting in a music class and we were learning about like songs that like were supposed to be, who were sung during slavery, and they were like, I understand none of this relates to you guys, but you have to understand like why this is a big deal. And I remember it's like, yeah, like I could probably count on one hand through every single grade how many like
Oh yeah.
African American
Same with
people were
mine.
there.
My school.
You went to Richmond. Right?
Yes, it was mainly white.
Did we all
Like,
go to different
pretty much.
schools?
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
well,
How many
There we
elementary
go.
schools are there?
There
We have
were
a
5. The
lot.
only one that isn't represented here is like.
What is
Will
it?
Rogers and
Oh,
Highland Park.
And,
Oh, there's
oh, really? There's
6?
6?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's 6. There's a lot.
I did not know
And
that.
then we're petitioning petitioning to get a 7th elementary school.
Why?
That's so dumb. Just get another middle school or another high school.
Can
And
we
we don't
Actually-
have enough people.
Can we put more money into the schools we already have?
Hey,
Literally a junior
donate
high.
to Skyline. We need it.
Don't get me
Force
started
Building a
about.
junior
They're
high?
building the Westwood the same size as the old Westwood. It only holds 600 kids, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Westwood was overcrowded when I was there, and it's getting worse.
So Sanger
Yeah.
has now gotten overcrowded because people will like, once again, it's like kind of the rich kid school.
Right.
People are like, it's better, so we have to put them in this school. So now it's just like getting super crowded.
Yeah, I noticed that with both Sanger and Westwood because we got a lot of kids that were given a choice because there's some of the lines of those districts. are
Yeah, I
built.
remember I had some friends who could have gone to Westwood, but they talked to our principal and were like, please don't let them go.
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Okay, Skyline has only like 400 people across all grades in there. Like
Really?
Yeah, there's
Is it like
Westwood
a part of that thing?
No
like
one-
people are like, it's
Yeah.
a shady school.
It's shady, and we're in like the really, really kind of like poor.
It's like the parts of town.
It's not the best part of town, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Richmond or like what.
Yeah.
No, it's not like Highland Park where it's all just kind of like white trash, I guess. But we are in the poor section of Stillwater, and like no one goes to Skyline. Like,
And
Yeah.
personally, I didn't like Richmond all that much because it was way sheltered. Oh my goodness, it
Mhm.
was. But the teachers, they were great, most of them. But it really wasn't that diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a few.
It's like, it's just
But-
There's
like,
always a few.
Just a few.
Or unless you're at Orlando. Oof.
Yeah.
We talked
then
about
it's
that.
like none.
My mom,
Yeah.
yeah, there was like one Native American kid, and then there was my mom, and then everybody else is white.
Mhm.
2 kids out of the entire school system.
And
All
my-
grades.
Yeah.
My mom, before she taught here, she taught in Pawnee, so I've kind of grown up with like a bunch of those people, and I'm like, I know some of them, and they know me, and I'm
Isn't it like
There's
such a
sometimes-
culture shock when you come to a place like this and it's like, no one's here? I remember
Yeah.
I went to like San
Really?
Francisco. No, I went to, it was Los Angeles, and we were staying with a friend, and I remember opening their yearbook, and there were 2 whole pages of the same Indian last name of kids who had it. And I remember being so like, oh my gosh. And then, because it's such a culture shock when you come from here where it's like, oh, you have maybe like 3 people Like, I can guarantee you I'm the only Anusha here. I will bet money on that.
Probably.
But like when you go there and it's like 2 full pages of different kids who are not from the same family but all have the same last name, and that's not counting like literally how many others. It was so crazy, and I was like, maybe they are better at, like they kind of they feel more at place because they have more people they can relate to. That's why I feel like the internet's a lot, like, because you can see,
Yeah.
like, I remember being on Instagram and then there's, all those accounts that are like, oh, this, like, that are set to, like, different cultures or races or, like, fandoms. Like, I remember I'll see some, like, for Indians or brown people and I'm like, this is funny, but, like, I can't show this to anyone at school because
They won't.
who am I going to tell? The one person I had, who was brown, who was really close to, who was a girl, she moved away. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, oh, go ahead.
And like when my mom moved here and taught in Stillwater instead of Pawnee, she has talked about how it is totally different. Like even how they run the school
Yeah.
is way different, and it's crazy.
Well, and then on the
It's in
name
the same
thing,
state.
yeah, no.
It's the same.
it's
but
crazy.
no.
And then, and then on the name thing, I hate how we as a society look down on especially since, the characters in this book were African or African American.
Yeah.
When you look down on traditional black names, we're like,
Yeah.
or if your name, I don't know, Davion, like stuff like that. And they're like, oh, it's so, I could tell who that is. Like,
Like, we
But
are.
it's not exogenous to the point of where I can't pronounce it, so it's okay.
Like,
yeah, but then
that's
it's like,
okay.
I know which part of town you came from, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
And like judging people just because of the stereotype of them, like let's say terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
I
just
hate them so much.
someone of that culture. You can't
It's
just be like
so-
you're a terrorist, no matter what.
Yes.
You can't do that.
Kata and I had a fun experience in our history class last year.
What happened?
Okay, so okay.
Are we allowed
Are we
to
allowed
name
to name?
names?
Are we allowed to name drop people?
Can we can if it's in a
How about you say
Good
the
life.
first letter?
So there-
Letter and the gender.
There is
Sure,
a
sure.
girl who we all know, she is Russian. She has a twin brother, you know that. There was another boy in our class
Who? H boy.
who called her a communist.
And then
Oh.
he proceeded to call me a Nazi twat. And then when he found out I was Jewish, he was like, oh God, what's that? You greedy Jew, something like that.
And
I can't
then
remember.
he called, what was it? It was Lena and then kind of me. He was like, oh, you're terrorists. He was like, oh, all
Yeah.
Muslims are terrorists. And the thing was, I'm sure he wasn't being serious, but it's sad that he was doing it in a
Yeah,
joking way.
like-
But you still can't do that.
You're gonna tell me what it is later. Is that what we're talking about? But I
Oh.
mean, it's
Actually, to tie into an experience I had literally last Friday, everyone who's watching this is gonna know who these, like if they were there. But I mean, I think I have a right to talk about it. I was outside on the bus line, and like I remember it was people who are our friends, like they were having like an argument. And I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" And it was someone who was not qualified to talk about this was saying. This person who is half African American, who is 75% African American and 25% white, this person who is not qualified was saying he does not have the right to have an N-word pass because he's not fully African American. I was like, neither are you, bud. You're not African American at all.
Yeah.
And it was a whole debate, and he was like, and it was sad that they were having a debate. And I was like, why is this happening? Like,
You don't say the N word unless you're black. You don't say the fag unless you're like part of the LGBT community.
Even
That's
then,
a rule.
like,
Yeah,
just
I
jump
just don't
in,
like
though.
those
Yeah.
words.
Exactly. I
They're
just
so derogatory, and I don't think you should
And then-
ignore the fact that they exist, but at the same time,
Yes.
using them and furthering the
Yeah.
use, if it's in a self-deflection way, it's okay, but they make me uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Like
just,
whenever people say that, I'm like, please don't.
Yeah,
Don't,
because you
don't.
know you're using
Because
it in a
I
way
have
that like,
family members that are darker skinned, and that
Yes.
kind of offends me.
and people will be like,
I
it's
know
just
people,
words,
and
and I'm like,
no,
words
it's
hurt.
not.
words,
Exactly.
there's no such thing as just words. Words carry the weight
Words-
of everything.
Those words, those offensive words, are used by people who want to hurt you. Like there were so many people who were racist who were in this book.
So many.
And like even
Yeah.
if they'd said that word, sure, it's a word, but behind that,
There's
it's kind of like
There's a feeling associated.
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would, if given the opportunity, they would very gladly murder you. Like it's really sad. Like there are people in this world. The reason those words are used often by them is because they know legally they can't hurt you, but if they could, they would.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
So they're
words are a
using these
very
words.
easy way to completely
Yeah.
not knock someone down.
Like annihilate
Yeah.
someone's identity, and just like.
Well,
yeah.
speaking of annihilate, I'm just gonna throw it all out there. This is
Hey.
what I wrote my personal narrative about.
Oh,
In 6th grade, it was Mr. Brashi's class. He has nothing to do with this, but
Yeah.
it was math class, and there's this kid, and this was before like pre-AP and everything was separated, so everything was still kind of mixed together, and it was a little
That
bit
was
different.
Yeah.
that was
And this
Yeah.
kid who I had never talked to before, I went to go ask Mr. Brushy a question at the end of class, and we were like right by his desk, right? And he came up to me, and I'm just gonna kind of show you. He was standing up, and he's a lot taller than I am. And he came up to me, he's like, "What are you? Are you white? Are you black? Are you mixed?" He was like in my face.
Oh my gosh.
I had
no. Someone.
No.
Yeah. And I just, well, that was before I would have told him to insert phrase there.
Yeah.
And I've,
Yeah.
since then. But it makes me so sad, and it shouldn't bother me, but it still does. Like
Because every little racist thing is gonna go with you forever, and like
yeah.
so like in last year. It was 8th grade. I remember I was in my science class, and I was talking to my one friend because that was a really weird science class. No one talked to each other. We just like were really quiet and talked to our singular friends. So I had my one friend, and I was talking to her, and I've known her for a really long time, so she's very defensive of me. And so the kid in front of me, I don't know why, he like left in the middle of school and never came back. He turned around because they were in rows, and my friend was on the other side of the row. He turned around, so I'm gonna just like example. You're just gonna be the example. Okay. Turn around, like, are you Christian? Because like if you're Christian, you're not allowed. No, he didn't ask if I was Christian. He asked if I was Muslim. And so my friend is LG, like she's gay, and he was like, "Are you Muslim? Because if you are, you're not allowed to date her." And I was like, and I was like, and then he's like, "So are you Christian? Or are you Muslim?" And I was like, "Are those the two only religions?"
Exactly.
And I literally, she was so defensive of me. She was just like, back off. Like she was like, I was like, who are? And it's like he was asking it with not even trying to be offensive. He was just like, "What are you?" And I was like, no.
When I was in I think it was like 2nd or 3rd grade, this dude came up to me and was like, "Are you Christian?" And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." Like I was raised Christian, but like, do I believe? Yeah. And then she was like, "Do you believe in God?" I'm like, "I guess." And it's like, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I'm like, I guess. And she's like, "Well, because you look Jewish, and I was just wondering, because unless you're Christian, we can't be friends." Word for word, I was like,
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, see,
And it's like we remember these experiences so keenly because they are experiences that hurt us and hurt our identity. And like that's why people are like, "You're so sensitive. You remember everything." It's like,
exactly.
no, it's because these are moments that made me,
define, yeah.
that literally made me go home and be like, should I be here? Like, I remember in elementary school, it's all in elementary school, guys.
it's always no.
I remember in elementary school, I used to have those thoughts of like, if I was in India, maybe I wouldn't feel this way, but I don't want to go back to India because in India I would be so different because I'm American. Like, and it's so, like, you don't feel like you fit anywhere because you're so raised, like, Like, she felt like she never fit anywhere, and when she went back home to Nigeria, like, she was free of it because she grew up in Nigeria. When she went home, she stopped seeing race because, there wasn't anywhere. She felt home.
It was just people like her, yeah.
Yeah.
But like with people born in America who like have parents, especially parents who are direct immigrants, because your parents don't get it. Like I remember sitting down and having a conversation with my mom maybe 2 weeks ago, and she just did not understand the feelings I was feeling because she never experienced racism when you're younger. Because it's a difference when you experience it when you're older and then when you're younger. Because when you're younger, you grow up with it and it feels like an almost undeniable truth about the world.
Exactly.
But when you never experience it when you're younger, it just feels like something that happens because you're an adult. And they don't understand. And you just feel so lost. Like no one gets it.
And with the one kid, I could tell he was really trying to hurt me at that point. Because you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. Well, he was like violently pelting the words at me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do.
Did
And
anyone
honestly,
defend you?
Mr. Brashi did once he figured out what was going on, but I honestly, every time I bring it up, even right now, I'm on the edge of an anxiety attack.
Right? It's
Yeah.
so like terrifying because they're not just attacking you; they're attacking who you. Because basically, who you are as a person is your identity, and
Yeah.
also your reputation. It's all these little pieces, and when someone attacks you, they are attacking literally everything. Because no matter what you do in this world, we generalize it with like your race. Like
Right.
it doesn't
yeah,
matter if
of
I'm a straight A
course.
student. If my name's Devonte and I've grown up from this part of
Yeah,
town,
Exactly.
I'm a
Yeah.
hood rat. Like
And you're probably gonna get chopped up.
And if you're
cops, like,
East Asian and have a B in a class, it's like, oh,
dumb
you
it.
are not.
you're
Yeah.
dumb. Yeah, and then that was the first time I was really like, oh man, because before that, I mean, obviously I was in a white school. I realized like, hey, you're a little bit different, but no one seems to
says it.
care
Yeah.
that much.
Because they don't see it. You're just that one person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then once and that happened, I was like, okay, people notice, and that's honestly, I couldn't tell you why in 7th grade I started straightening my hair and doing stuff like that, but that probably had a very big part
it's that
to
like
do with
you
it.
kind of. I feel like when you are colored or you have something different about you, you enjoy wearing the rose-colored glasses because no one sees you as different. But I feel like you can't just expect to your race to not exist. We should live in a world. If there was a perfect utopian society, it would be that people acknowledge your race but don't hurt you for
Exactly.
it, which is what should be.
Well, see, and I wasn't
That's
necessarily.
I think that was how his thing died.
Yeah.
Exactly.
His
Yeah, died.
depression is because his mom refuses
It's
to talk
suppressed,
about Nigeria.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other person who could possibly tell him anything would be his cousin, who's never around because she's off doing God knows what with her boyfriends.
Yeah.
And then also he's had these interchanging father figures who your parents do define you in some way, who you grow up with. He's just had them come in and out. He knows absolutely nothing about his background, but he still has to experience racism of something he can't choose. And it's all these conflicting things.
He went to a white school too.
And
That's
you're
No.
a teenager, and it's so hard. Like, all we're talking about is as teenagers, and this is the exact same thing he felt. But I feel like our thing is we at least have some semblance of, like, where we come from, for lack of a better term. But he had nothing because his mom refused to talk
Exactly.
about it.
Well, and see, sorry. Go ahead. No.
And she
okay.
also related shame to that. She was
Yeah.
ashamed of where she came from because of her affair, but he doesn't know that because she won't talk about it. So he kind of relates it to where I come from is shameful.
Yeah, and then, like, I have not experienced racism like any of you have, but I'm not trying to say that none of yours matters.
That's
Oh,
what
no,
we
yeah.
want.
Yeah,
We want
yeah.
you to acknowledge
No,
it.
Yeah.
That is the best thing someone can do.
I
We don't want you
have
to
been
not
told
talk about
that, like, I cannot go certain places because of my hair color and my eyes, because in certain areas people want to, like, sell you because of those things.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And I love to travel, and there are just places that I cannot go because of that. And, like, I cannot be alone in the dark because walking, like, anywhere, like, I was at OSU, and my mom, she doesn't want me to, even walking from the Sarah Center to her car, she does not want that. She faces the door every single time. And one time, my lesson teacher walked me out because they were like, we don't want you to get kidnapped.
Right.
Because of my hair and my eyes. And I'm like, but no, I just don't understand. And
Because those are
Yeah.
things that are valued. So
exactly.
it's also the,
And,
like,
I don't-
devaluation of other things, and
Yeah.
then things that are, like, we
That
want
bring
it
us
so
up
much,
to
we
high
do
regard.
Why
better.
is
Yeah.
it so valued? I just
Yeah.
don't understand
It's
why
because
so
we have
valued.
such a thing about, like, your skin and your
Yeah.
hair and your eyes, they're everything.
And that goes into appearance.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just all of it.
Is this the racism episode?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Well, see, and then I ended up realizing, not that I was trying to be white passing, but like, you know, with Janika, was that her name?
Yeah.
In here,
Janika.
yeah, she, like they said, she was half caste, so they called her a mix, and she could not necessarily go as white passing, but she could get very close, and it doesn't, you know, it's easier to not step on toes that way. But I realized, I mean, even when I straightened my hair, people were like, yeah, dude, you're not
Nothing
white.
changes.
Like, you're just
No matter how much you try, even if you're like, you want to be proud of who you are, but you want to not experience the bad things. So maybe if you change yourself enough,
People
it's
won't.
just passing.
Yeah. And I forgot I was gonna say, never mind, ignore me.
Okay.
I was like, I had like a really good thing, and I was like, no, never mind.
And, like,
That's
back to
dumb.
what I said, there are some places that I am, like, legitimately scared to go because I'm like,
Do you have an example?
no.
Oh, okay.
Well, like, different countries, you could say.
Yeah,
There are
okay,
some
yeah.
places that I should never go, but I want to, just to have the experience of being there. But I am terrified of going there and be like, am I going to get killed, kidnapped, raped, all three?
Yeah.
It's fun.
And no one's exempt from it, which is what I find so
Exactly,
sad.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we could have someone the complete opposite end of the spectrum and
Yeah.
to you, completely dark-skinned, I mean, equally as beautiful, but that other places, you know,
It's so
Exactly.
like people are like, why do you focus so much on racism? It
Well,
does.
because
It's
it
just
affects
that
you as a
it's
person.
literally everything you. No matter what, you're never gonna escape it. Even if you are white and you are perfect, it's gonna affect you somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if you are complete opposite and you're completely black with the most very dark skin, very natural hair, it obviously affects you. It's just where you are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's also like your like monetary class. Like
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
two people who look the exact same will definitely be treated differently based on where they are in life, which is definitely what happens
Yeah.
to her.
Yeah.
Like she goes to Princeton, she's a great job.
well dressed.
Yes.
Well dressed, she straightens her hair, she relaxes it.
Yeah. She's great, and the same people from Africa, she herself sees them. They are less civilized in culture than me because they don't have my career. And people outside would hands down see it like that because they'd be like, look at her, she's a sophisticated racism
She rose
blogger.
above the race and like
Mhm.
did her own
She's a
thing.
god
Yeah.
compared to everyone else.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And like
this girl.
most people, like they don't want white people to talk about racism because it's like you can't talk about that. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And like when it is on both sides, like what I was talking about, there are places that I cannot go because of that. And same with all of you and everyone. There are places that you cannot go because of racism. And it's on both sides. And
Yo, it's definitely,
Yeah.
it's definitely on both
and
sides.
that's what some people don't understand, and I just don't. And like the people that put the white people speaking about racism down and like, you aren't credible enough. You can't talk about that.
Like,
no way.
Even though like we don't
No.
experience it, like
Exactly.
we
You
still
can acknowledge
we,
its
we
existence.
still need to acknowledge it because
Exactly. And
then
it's
we're
not
also
like
like
we're
adding to
saying
the problem.
That your lives are not as like our racism experiences are better than yours, like worse than yours, because they're about the same.
Yeah, this is
I
like
mean, it all depends on the person, really.
with the overeager supporter. Like,
Yeah.
don't act like you get
Yeah.
like, don't act like you're experiencing it, but we want you
To
to
acknowledge
understand.
it.
Yeah.
Like, acknowledge it's a bad thing. If someone's acting rude to me, you stand up and tell them they're being a jerk. Like, but I don't want you to act offended and be like, you've personally attacked it. No, but tell them off. Do something. Don't just sit there and be a witness to something
and it's like
bad
the
that's
things
happening.
that people do now, and I'm like, you just need to say something. Don't just sit there in the background, just watching everything.
Go down.
Isn't there like a
Do
thing-
something.
Yeah, isn't
The
there like
bystander mentality.
yeah, and
that-
like the ignorance is bliss thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like-
that.
Ignorance is bliss. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we thought America was great back in the
No.
60s with women in the kitchen.
The
But
racial
now-
60s at that is literally
yeah,
what they're
yeah.
called.
Oh my gosh.
My mom was always like, you know, back in the 70s, we thought things were gonna go great, and then Trump got elected. She says that every single week. I'm not kidding.
Well,
Oh
and
my
see, I'm just gonna go ahead and just like spill all the familial
That's
tea.
fine.
And yeah, it's so ingrained within people you wouldn't think it would be ingrained upon. Because, like I mentioned, you know, clearly my parents are in an interracial relationship. But my biological grandfather on my dad's side, there's a lot there, but he's not a very good person. And he doesn't like my mom.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where he's basically disowned my father. And, well, and there's other, and this, I think it was my brother's second birthday party. They were like, you know what, we're gonna give him one last chance. If he can look past it and appreciate the fact that he has biological grandkids,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. and he came, and I was 9, I think,
Yeah.
and I was the only child there that he would not speak to. So, yeah, it's so
No.
it's so underlying, and people, you would just be like, really? Come on, you can't. I mean, you're literally blood related, and
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Not to bring the mood down or anything.
Yeah.
With dates, this is like comedic relief dates. They make us happy.
My dad gave me dates because he wanted this to be healthy.
Dates and books.
We're not supposed to eat in the library, but you know.
Yeah.
It's okay, I turned the signs around, we can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
You can't see them.
We're at the half-hour mark.
Okay,
Okay.
so I mean, are we gonna sign off now?
We're gonna do
Also,
the
like the historical weight of like the N-word and the like FHE, like they rolled gay people up like cigars and like carpets and crap and added brush and lit them on fire.
Man,
That's
it's
like,
like
the history of.
I don't.
It makes me so
Makes me
upset.
so mad.
Yeah, and then when you see comments on things like,
Yeah.
okay, Instagram's bad, but I have a ginormous family, so I have a Facebook too, right? And you look on Facebook and it's like,
Oh yeah, Facebook.
people
Oh,
are just,
Facebook.
it's
Facebook
because
is
they have an
brutal.
identity to hide behind and they can say, it's, like, people can't just say, like, now, oh, like, I guess in this current administration, there's been a kind of rise in a lot more racially
Yes, there has.
provoking things.
yeah.
But people can't just say, like, oh, that came out of nowhere. It was there. But it's
It's
that
always-
this
it's always
kind
been
of
there.
this kind of administration has given a voice and a platform for these people to voice their kind of inner demon, like their thoughts.
Right.
So,
Well, see, and they address it in this book, and my dad's a police officer, and I feel awkward talking to people about that because, you know, it's, but they address how a lot of the times people of color are, you know, contacted and everything a lot more, and it's actually, like I said, I can't really talk to people about my dad specifically, but I get a little defensive of it because while that does happen, it so happens. People don't, it's always the generalizations that make everything worse.
Yes.
With any situation, with that situation, with black people in general, with white people in general, with everything. It's the generalizations that adds to the problem. Especially that one thing, because I mean, it obviously hits home. And my dad's been accused of being racist
yes.
when he arrests someone and everything. But if they're like, look at his wife and children.
And the thing about like racism now, people are calling everyone racist. It's like a new thing that people do, and I'm like, that.
Right, and
Why?
it's become a joke.
Yes.
A lot of
It's
people at
not
our
a
school,
joke.
if someone's just saying something, they'll be just like, are you being
Racist?
racist?
Or like, and like,
No.
yeah, like, and people, you know, who, the guys who, like, every time someone mentions the freaking dress code, they always have to roll up their shorts and make it a joke.
I
like,
don't want you to roll up your shorts. I want you to understand that someone shouldn't be dress coded for having a sweatshirt that
We all
just
got
ends
shoulders.
right above the, like, your jeans.
Right, or tank tops. We all have shoulders.
Wow,
I'm just
look, I
saying.
have a shoulder. Wow.
Yeah, well, and see, and I feel like
Amenities.
throwing the word racist around, it's so
It
heavy.
devalues the-
It
It
does,
does,
and
it does.
everyone has, whether they want to admit it or not. We all have underlying prejudices that we have to get over. But having that prejudice that has been ingrained in you over and over again does not mean you are a racist. It
It
means
means you need to see the world in a different light. And
Exactly.
just because you currently haven't does not make you racist. It makes you someone who's
normal. Honestly.
has a background and has prejudices because you're raised with that.
Mhm.
But it just means you need to experience the world in a different way.
You will probably know who I'm talking about.
But
One of my friends recently has on Instagram. They have the stalker person, and they are Indian and from India. And they keep calling her beautiful, and they're like, "I love you," and then they were like, all of a sudden one day,
shoot,
like,
I know,
"You're
I-
racist." I'm like,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm completely
Yeah.
confused.
But yeah, I'm just like, you can't just
It's
call someone
yeah.
racist because
It's
they
like-
don't want to convert to your.
Oh, I do know.
I don't.
You were gone that day. Oh my god.
Okay.
I talked to my parents about that guy. They were so mad. They were like, tell him to shut up. Like,
Well, see,
that is
and
not.
the definition
and he
of
finally
racism.
stopped because myself and another one of her friends like told him to stop and to like you
back
cannot
off.
back off
Right.
and like leave her alone because
It's not racist.
Exactly.
She doesn't want to talk to a freaking stranger on the internet.
Right, well, see, and then the definition of racism is valuing one race above another and finding
Which
that
Finding
race
yourself supreme.
superior. Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense for reverse racism because that would be a double negative, so that means that you wouldn't be racist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
It's just racism.
How about, here's, like, people are just like, how do I know when I'm not being right? How do I know? People are so sensitive. There's a very easy chart. Don't act like you're smarter than someone because of their race. Because of experience? Sure. Because of your position in a job? Maybe. But not because you're a different race. That's literally the only thing
Exactly.
you have
Yeah.
to follow. Don't act like someone is better because of the color of their skin. Get to know someone, then you can guess if you're better.
Right, well, see, and then back to the characters. I read this thing somewhere. I don't remember where it was from. I think it was on Instagram. I'm sure someone said it. Don't quote me on this. It's not my words. But they were like, your first thought is what you've been trained to think, and then your second thought is who you actually are.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if she doesn't ever retrain herself to think differently.
No,
she just
she
continues the,
She just
That
takes
is
the line
so
of.
true.
Yeah.
especially the colorism too. And
Yeah.
with,
Mhm.
yeah.
I definitely, also, I was really surprised. I thought there would be so much more of her opinions with how she sees white people, but we actually don't really see that. We only see it with
Yeah.
Kurt. Like, and a lot of her, Blaine's friends are the first type of, like, outer, not in a relationship or close type people that, like, supporting characters. We see her interact with a lot more, and a lot of them are colored, but they're also that, like, pretentious high class of colored people where, like, we are better than everyone else, but we still get to talk about racism. It's like, no, you're also being racist. You're being actually more elitist, which is also so stupid. Like, just don't judge people because of background or ethnicity. Judge them based on their actions and their moral values.
Honestly though.
Yeah.
Let's see, and once you get to that point where you're on the upper scales of the hierarchy, you can't look down on those below you because you can't measure their privilege, you can't measure their opportunities, and opportunities are not handed out equally
Oh, yeah.
No.
by any means.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't take that into consideration.
Yeah. Also, yeah, like when people were like, oh, this person from a lower class working family and this rich kid who's like a trust fund baby. This person, well, I'm offering a scholarship, but you have to work at this one institute and pay a lot of money to spend there. Yeah, like they want to be offered the same, but it's like, what was the term? It's like, I forgot, we learned it in government, like where there was like the graphic of like the people given the same thing, but then the people given needed to succeed.
Oh, equity.
Equity
There
versus
we go.
equality.
Equity versus
You need
equality.
equity. You need to give them opportunities for them to succeed, not just give everyone the same thing, because it's not going to help. Sure, you're giving them apprenticeship, but the person from the lower class family is not going to be able to afford
Exactly.
that thing to get them there.
Well, and see, graduating from college to someone, even if it's just community college, means the world.
Yeah.
To a lot of people that it might be first generation. Then also, if you consider, what was I going to say? If you consider the fact that when you start out in the racially based scholarships as well, because if you think about the socioeconomic patterns, I mean, when especially African Americans here, when they were released from slavery, they're not going to come out of that with a ton of
Because
money.
they weren't
Yeah.
given
Which is
anything.
wrong.
Only a few people were actually given because they had good people who owned them.
Exactly, and then using, and like I said, the circles, it all repeats itself. So they didn't start out on an even playing field regardless. So giving them the extra boost, I don't understand why that makes a lot of people so angry. Because them getting to college in the first place for a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them, or anyone who's from an underprivileged or like it just
Afford it.
Because college is so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get us started on the
No.
American education
Oh my gosh,
system.
no.
Isn't it? It's affirmative action when you
Yeah,
are
oh,
specifically tailoring things to different races. It was like, wasn't there a whole study that came out? It was like they accused Harvard of being racist, and, like biased against East Asian students.
Yeah.
And then it was a whole thing.
Yeah. My friend, an associate of mine.
An associate, do you work in a law firm? I was just watching Legally, I meant to say it it a while ago when we were talking about your blonde hair. I was watching
Oh.
Legally Blonde over the weekend, and might I say I love that movie because she is just so smart. Anyway, so.
Okay. My initial state of mind really, like I hates, like with a burning passion, hates affirmative action, because she's like, well, they can just pull them up by their bootstraps. Well, guess what, lady? If you don't
Hike up your britches.
if you can't afford boots, you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like,
Yeah.
It's so much of like, am I gonna afford these boots, or am I gonna afford the bread to feed my entire family? No, I'm gonna do the bread because you gotta survive.
Yeah, and
There's just no
capitalist societies,
opportunities
which
for
makes it
people
even worse.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And well, and then that explains why. I don't remember when we mentioned this, what episode it was in. The
It's just
divide
awful.
between Blaine and Ifemelu, because I don't remember. But we were talking about how they think their struggles outweigh one another, but it's just different. Like we talked about.
It's not that they outweigh each other; it's that they're differently experienced.
Mhm.
They're both legitimate, but it's not. But you have to understand that your experiences are different. Everyone's life and everyone's struggles are going to be different because everyone lives a different life, basically.
And this is kind of off topic, but like in my personal narrative, I was talking about how death, like people kind of
They want to be.
want to, it's kind of a contest to be like, who has like the worst experiences with death? And I'm like, but they're all the same. It just depends on the person. Like, let's say if someone's mother had cancer and is dying, and well, let's say she did die, that person has only experienced that. And let's say another person has only experienced their dog dying. They're both the same in a way.
They're both
that they-
horrible things.
Yes.
But they're different.
but they're different.
And you can't judge them based with each
Yeah,
other. Like,
yeah.
sure, you would say, like, oh, dogs. Some people would say
Exactly.
a dog's life is worth less than a human.
I know.
But then, like, just don't compare them. Judge them on their
Yeah.
own events. Stop.
Yeah, and
It's like you have to stop trying to put one experience that's totally unrelated and just shove it up again. Like, this happens a lot with school shootings.
Yeah.
Sorry to take
Yeah.
it that route.
Woof.
But
Yeah.
people will be like, I mean, it wasn't that bad. No one died. Yeah, but there were still
Yeah,
kids
they
hiding
were
and
still-
terrified that someone was going to shoot them.
And like, oh, we actually haven't had a shooting yet. We're not like in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey! Moving up in the world.
I was
Wait,
like,
didn't we have one with the first few days though? Or am I thinking of something else?
Shoot, that's a good one.
I
don't know.
No, wait,
Well,
that's
we're
really
gonna figure that out.
Okay.
But while we're talking about
While our
school
research
shootings,
team is on that.
we can talk about the racism underlying the criminal system in itself, because of the white school shooter. It's like, oh,
They were mentally
sick.
unstable.
oh my gosh, but if
like a
it's
slap on
if
the
it's a
wrist.
black-
yeah,
like,
if they're like, oh, this
surprise,
thug
if it's a-
came and shot up
Yeah.
the school.
And then
Like
it's
in
all
the,
in the
jail,
pictures
and they're
they
never gonna
use.
amount to anything.
Yeah,
They'll
the
use
pictures they use.
the baby
every,
photos.
Every black person who's ever shot up a school, their photos are always their mugshot. But every white person that ever shot up a freaking school,
Yeah.
it's always like their teenage photos or their yearbook photos.
I
or like
literally saw an article where she was a white lady. She was literally owning a sex ring and like doing this like horrible things, right?
Wow.
And they used this beautiful,
Yeah.
like professionally taken headshot of her
Yeah.
in the article.
Oh,
Like,
shoot.
really?
I mean,
If
there,
anything,
there are some different instances that there are people like that they do have the mugshots for them that
right?
they show, but that doesn't happen. very often.
Everybody gets a mugshot. If you shoot up
yeah.
a school, you're gonna get a
It's
mugshot.
so, and it's also when it's who is the victim is also a
Yes.
big thing.
It is.
Like, well, I don't even.
there have been like 20.
I was about to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
yeah.
Sorry
I'm not-
for giving you
yeah.
hope in our
I am
world.
so sorry. There have been like 20. Like
Yeah, I thought there was one like the first 4 days.
Me
yeah,
too,
there
I'm
was-
sure there
the
was.
first one's like in
This is really sad, guys.
Wait, hold
and
up, there's
for
more.
like the letter thing that I did.
There was actually
over-
one on January 1st.
Yeah, I was about
for
to say,
history,
yeah,
the
there
summer
was.
assignment.
Never
I
mind.
did one over
Ignore
gun
the
control.
celebration.
And I had a website where I tracked like
Me too.
all of the
Oh my
like
God.
shootings, and I put it in there, and I was like, this is insane how many school shootings there are since like when my parents were in school and now.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the first
like,
one
in,
was
like-
Columbine. Like,
yeah, Columbine, and it was because they were trying to do something big. And I feel like every time it's sad, but shooters want to top the next person.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
generally are trying to. I touched on this. We're just bringing everything in my revenge analysis.
yeah.
People want vengeance, and
Oh,
they're
I talked about school shootings in my
Really?
revenge.
I didn't
Oh.
talk about it in mine, but my
really
concept and
remember
notion in my revenge essay was basically that people are going to amount their revenge to the pain they have.
Yes.
So a lot of times school shooters are resulted, just generally, this is definitely just a generalization, not talking about everyone, but it's generally like bullying and victims of
Yeah.
bullying. So bullying is a big thing and it can, once again, annihilate someone's identity, just as racism.
And a lot of it is connected to race
Oh,
too,
yeah.
depending on where
Like,
you're
oh,
at.
you're white trash because of your family is a
Mhm.
druggie.
And you live in a trailer park.
And then
Whoops.
whenever
Yeah.
my parents were in school, there were like 4 shootings, and one was a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was just 3, and now it's like 20. And
Yeah.
like,
And I hate
They're
when people
not.
try to
And I'm like,
decrease
that
the
is not
numbers
good.
by saying, oh, it was a suicide. Yeah, but,
But
is
it's
that
still
it's still
a
a
shooting.
it is
Right.
that someone
Yeah.
wanted to harm themselves
Yeah,
or
or
harm someone
someone
or
else. And
make
they
a
could've
statement in the
harmed
world
someone
because
else.
they felt unheard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they saw it was so easy by picking up a gun and
Right.
shooting themselves
Or
or
like
someone
they
else.
could have shot someone else and then shot themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and
You never
not
know.
to be depressing again.
This conversation,
You.
we're talking about racism when we've gotten to
Shooting.
shooting.
I mean,
and,
if we make it through high school without a shooting happening, that's gonna be
Well,
a
like
freaking
at our
wonderful
high school,
thing.
yeah.
Technically,
we didn't really.
Well, I technically have already lost that because like when I was in, well, that's actually, never mind. When I was in 3rd grade, I went to Skyline, which is a school right next to the junior
Oh, yeah.
high, and I
Right.
was in there when, I wasn't in junior high, but I
When
was
we
in
had
the
that
Skyline thing
Oh,
when they
when
had the
they-
shooting.
At junior high.
I remember
Yeah.
I didn't get to school because it was really in the morning. I got to school later, and I remember being so confused because no one wants to talk about it as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
I had to have, and I only learned the full story after talking to my whole class, like like gossiping.
Yeah,
generally.
no, yeah.
I had to, and then finally my parents read the news, like they left, and they had to delicately explain it to me.
Right. Well, and see, and there's always a chance that it's racially charged as well,
Yeah.
depending on who and what, and
Yeah.
you know.
I read a book. It was all my things are just related to books. I read a book, and it was this is a little off the shooting, but it's just trying to get back to racism. I read a book. It was called The Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tucker Mockbee. You still need to read it. I'll lend it to you. But I read it, and it was following this young teenage Muslim girl right after 9/11 and her experiences, and it's that she experienced it differently because her hijab was a walking sign of people saying she's hiding a bomb under that. But her brothers were just the exotic boys. All the white girls are gonna spend time with to be rebellious. And because it was inspired by the author's events, because she's Muslim and she was a teenager right after. And I remember reading that and I was like, I'm sure, because people who are racist will often mix up and generalize cultures. So I remember I was talking to my parents and I was like, did you ever experience any type of racism after 9/11? And I think Stillwater, we're kind of lucky and we're also not, of that we don't have a lot of racist notions that kind of circumvent this town.
It's not like Charleston.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like also people don't want to address that it could be a possibility. So they just didn't talk about it.
Because there's such a small minority population of those that are minorities
Yeah.
anyways, so they don't really have to address it
Yeah.
anyways.
But in that book, she was just a lot of similarities because generally when you live a life that has racism in it, it follows a same path, but it also doesn't. Hers were so very related to Ifamaloo's, where she had her identity crisis and she was scared to start a relationship. In that book, there was a romance and she had a relationship with someone who was white, and she was scared to be in that relationship because she was afraid she couldn't be. Where she kind of, Ifamaloo, felt the same, she had to relax her hair to fit in with Kurt's friends. And in that book, at least their relationship was healthy and he tried to understand, but Kurt.
Healthy is a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, theirs was in the other book. This one is not healthy. Because in this one, because in that book, in A Very Large Expanse of Sea, the love interest, his name's Ocean or something. It was an interesting name. He's a great guy. So he tried to acknowledge, he acknowledged her struggles and he wanted to help, but he very much realized racism is a big thing. but he like it was a good relationship.
Oh,
But in
that's
this
cute.
book,
No.
it's so you guys should read it. It's only like 200 pages.
200 words.
200
That's a real
pages.
short
It's
story.
lovely. Oh my gosh,
Well, see,
it's beautiful.
and then Kurt, it
Yeah.
almost seems like he has.
He wants to brush it under the carpet.
Yeah,
with
and
his
he
money.
wants to,
Like, let's take
yeah.
this broom I made of all my dollar bills and work it. Do you want to go get mojitos now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
like
well-
this is something that doesn't affect me, so I'm just going to ignore
And
it.
they bought
Right.
into it.
A lot of
Auntie
it's
Uju
a
bought
lot.
into it. Dyke bought into it. Well, Dyke was really young, so I don't want to say he bought into it.
But, like,
He just said
everyone
that's my
loved
cousin
him.
with the rich boyfriend. I like
Yeah.
him because
Right.
he's rich.
And
Yeah.
see, the thing is I don't want to say he had a fetish, but it almost seems like he was like, I have a thing
He was an
for
over.
foreign
Yeah,
women.
he's
Yeah.
an overeater, but that's an
Yeah.
like that's like overeater supporters. They want to make everything
Right.
everywhere
It's like, I
diverse.
had a vegan. Wasn't it vegan?
I don't know. They were all, but not. I don't
Yeah.
remember him
Yeah.
having a white girlfriend ever.
No, he didn't. And then his mom, like, he knows his mom is kind of.
It almost felt like a rebellion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like probably would.
Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
taste in the exotics before I go and settle down with that one woman who's also a trust fund
Kathy
lady.
from high school.
Kathy. Like,
Kathy from high school.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just goes into play. That's largely over.
It's a hard, and I felt like for her it was a hard pill to swallow because she wants to be loved,
Right.
and this
Desperately.
perfect guy who everyone's telling her is perfect. It was really hard for her to come to the terms with
This is
he's
not okay
good.
for me.
Which I feel like maybe that's why she cheated on him because it says she
Yeah.
has like a self-harming kind of like
Oh,
A
yeah.
self-destructive.
self-destructive nature
Yeah.
where she kind of ruins everything that's good for
Very
her.
self-sabotaging. that
Oh
woman is.
yeah. Yep.
Well, you come to learn to be self-sabotaging though. You don't. Most people don't just start out like, I'm gonna jack my whole life up.
Maybe,
no.
maybe I feel like maybe hers was an offset of like her parents because her mom was beautiful and everyone said that, and then her mom
She had
kind of
that
went off the rails,
breakdown.
and
Yeah.
her dad, and she kind of saw her dad have to put up with it. Her dad was so, but she kind of with her mom was so needy and selfish that she kind of we see her dad kind of lose the light and joy in his eyes, and maybe that's why she's like I don't want to be like my mom, but in the end she becomes like her aunt, who is
Not
a little
necessarily.
worse than her
Yeah.
mom. At least her mom doesn't cheat on people.
And her mom would honestly be so disappointed. And
Yeah. Is her mom even dead? Like
I know
We
they're both
They
alive.
go
after
away.
like chapter like 13, there's like no mention of her mom. Like it's like my mom left me with giant childhood scars. Got to just
Exactly, and see,
Leave
it there.
that's why she learned the whole
Yeah.
hair thing too, because she was like, my mom has this beautiful long, not as
Yeah,
hair.
when you don't have someone, definitely speaking from experience, when you don't have someone who has hair like yours, it is so hard.
It's so hard.
Because your mother is literally, mainly in many women's lives, I'm not going to say everyone, they are the person who teaches you kind of how to be a woman. And it's really hard when you have to, it's a hard pill to swallow when you realize I kind of have to do research.
Yeah.
This isn't, she's not just my guide anymore. I have to go out and find it because it's not a common thing. So
With my hair, no one in my family has hair like me.
I thought your mom had curly hair.
She used to, but
Oh,
now she
right, you
doesn't.
said.
It was never like mine. It was curly, but not like mine. There's only one other person that I know that has hair close to mine.
Yeah.
But and I have to like find certain things that I use, and like I have red in my hair from my dad, and
Same.
it turns really
Not
brassy
same.
sometimes. So I have to use like a certain like shampoo and conditioner like once a week to kind of like counteract that. And yeah, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I mentioned before, my mom and I have completely different hair, but I've had to kind of derail from because I was better off than she was because, I mean, who I call grandma is not her biological mother, but she was a white woman, and my mom had, I think she had her hair relaxed and stuff, especially in the 90s. But, yeah, it's the research and everything, and then I also had to, the parental identity crisis growing up, because I remember, it was second grade, it was fine, like I mentioned, my dad is a white man, my mom is brown like me, and my parents walked in the room for a party or something. This kid was like, "Are you adopted?" He was like, "No, I'm not adopted."
I hate when children, it happens all the time when you're younger, as we said, children, I hate when people try to say why you were like the way you are. Like people would tell me, oh, Indians have dark skin because you're near the equator. And I'm like,
What?
We got a lot of melanin. It's like a science thing. I'm not gonna explain it to you
And
because you're like
that,
7.
Like, adds the stereotype. of it.
Yeah, that like, oh, India, hot, spices, silk, exotic. Yep.
Well,
Look how it's
Great
it's
ending.
an hour-long episode.
Yeah. This is by far the
I mean, this should be the longest episode.
It
I
should,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
okay, so
So,
Thank you for
love
your time.
who you are.
yeah.
Be
You're,
who you wanna be.
beautiful. Okay.
Racism is a multi-layered thing. It's
Don't
not gonna,
be
there's not one
It's
true
a circle
solution.
thing. Though.
There's not one true solution to it, but you should always be true to yourself.
And don't let it
Yeah.
bring you down. I mean,
Yeah.
that's hard to do, but
Yeah.
like try.
Yeah.
You know,
Try
if,
to be better.
and it's
And
okay
if-
if it's sad. Like
Yeah.
you should not
Mhm.
expect you have to be happy.
And then
all
talk
the time.
about it and combat your own inner
Yes.
prejudices that you
That's
have
right.
against
Yes.
everyone
If you
in
feel like
society.
someone's being racist to you, but they don't understand that they are, sit down and talk to them.
Yeah.
If they really care for you, they will.
Understand.
Yes.
Yeah. And
So-
if you're white, please acknowledge racism and
Yes,
don't be part
and I
of the
was gonna
problem.
say, if you are white, do not let people call you racist if you're not being that, but also acknowledge that that is a problem in the world.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
be scared
Don't.
to offend anyone. That's the big lesson
Yeah.
of this.
And if you have questions,
Ask them. Be
That is-
curious.
but
Don't be
Yes.
a-
And
but
don't-
be
but
don't be
disrespectful.
mean.
Yeah, don't be
Expect-
disrespectful.
Also, don't
That's the big
expect
thing.
that they owe you an answer.
yes.
Yes.
Expect that you have the right to ask them, but don't expect that they owe you an answer. Just be happy. Be happy for now. Yeah.
All right. So, theme song.
Squid Man.
Yeah.
Brown, 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 brown.